Andrew, we know that prices have been sliding somewhat. Yes, we had a gangbuster fourth quarter, but they are sliding right now. And the concern is China. Where do you see prices headed?
So I've been hearing about the concern is China for about 25 years, now 30 years. So I don't actually think the concern is China. What we've had with iron ore is this mega trend, which is completely unchanged. And yes, you get dips and bumps, which makes great news. But the mega trend for iron ore is still firmly in place. You've got accelerating steel consumption, and when steel is made out of green hydrogen electricity as opposed to coal, then you'll really see steel take off. So I'm excited about the long-term future of iron.
Put a price to iron ore for the end of the year.
I think that's a really good idea. What I know, if I predict a price, or or the best analysts in the world predict a price, what we know for sure is that won't happen.
Just put a price to it, your guess.
No way.
Come on, Andrew.
The mega trend will stay in place.
You say that China has been a concern for you for the last 20 years, but it is a concern. Look, it is growing at 5%, but there is no momentum, they say, and even China is concerned about its own growth. Surely demand will be impacted.
Okay, so I do remember when China was growing in double digits, and it was tiny, and then it was medium, and it started growing in high single digits, and now it's massive, and it's growing at 5%. I know most economies around the world who are nowhere near China's scale would chew off their own arm to get 5% growth. So let's look at it practically. 5% growth is very powerful when you've got that bigger economic base.
Do you see China's demand recovering? I guess that depends on its property sector. Do you see a rebound in the property sector that would boost demand and hence price?
Yeah, look, I kind of look at all the economics, but I also get out to find out. I go and speak to Chinese people. I go walking down the streets of various cities, and I see still the burning ambition in mums and dads to leave their children a better life than they had, in their parents still the satisfaction that they succeeded in doing that. You know, remember, most people were from the revolution. They came out of a farming sector, now they've gone into industrial and high tech. They're doing super well, yet their ambition is unabated. They want to keep on improving their lifestyles.
But are you expecting a rebound in China property?
So you want to go from macro to minor? That's completely fine. I am expecting a rebound.
When?
But it'll be in the next several months. As a long-term major iron ore player, I'm not remotely concerned about it. I can't be bothered about spikes and drops and spikes and drops. What I do concern myself about is what is the long-term future for this commodity? Is it locked into the world? Will it be good for the world? Well, it won't be good for the world unless we send steel green, unless we send iron ore green. But I know we can do that, so it will be long-term megatrend, good for the world.
How are you navigating China and the Chinese market?
Well, just through good relationships, through being a Jack Blunt Australian, where we just say exactly what we mean. Everyone in China knows that what I say I mean. Who they see is who I am. And look, they appreciate it. It's almost Australian in that sense, even though it's got a very deep and different historical culture. To me, you can be very blunt with all Chinese people and leaders like I can across the world everywhere else.
The biggest risk for China, you think? Because when you take a look at the markets, investors have either pulled fully from the Chinese market or they've cut down the exposure to Chinese assets. What's the biggest risk for China?
Look, I'd say that China is leading the world in many cases about going green. If they pull back on going green, that will be a major risk because their popularity as an investment destination, as a place to buy products from, all helps their economy. Now, as they push to go green, and that's hard, right? Because they've got this massive fossil fuel-driven coal-powered sector still growing, but growing faster than that is their green energy program. So I'd say don't slow up on your green energy program. That's where your future support base will come from.
You've been talking about clean energy. Presumably, you came here in your private jet. Just want to put that clear.
Helicopter.
The big bet is on hydrogen. What if that bet fails? What if you are wrong, along with some of the other people?
So I flew here on a product and a commodity which is very unsustainable, called sustainable aviation fuel. It's like any other organic source of so-called sustainable energy. It's good for paper washing, but it's not good for anything else. We need to get into a bulk-produced fuel, which the whole world can make and consume, which is so much better than fossil fuel because it's democratic. You can make it anywhere. You don't have your supply chains cut off because some nutcase gets hold of a missile or wants to go and invade a country. You can do it everywhere. And that is, of course, green electricity. The instant you get green electricity, you can get green hydrogen. The instant you get green hydrogen, you get green ammonia. And that, for the most hard-to-abate industry in the world, everyone considers as probably bulk, heavy, long-distance shipping. We can even send that green. We've proved it at Fortescue. We're now going to prove it to the global shipping industry.
And when do you scale? How do you scale?
Oh, you're talking to the fastest scaling company I've ever met on Earth, called Fortescue. So Fortescue has brought the technology into existence. It's produced the first green hydrogen ship, which is, of course, green ammonia. What it produces as its waste product is beautiful natural nitrogen, which these trees behind us thrive on. And that ship is totally scalable. We're taking that technology now. My last meeting at Fortescue was with heads of shipping and head of marketing and technology, and they were pushing me to say, let's start placing orders for green ships. And I've said, well, tell me, what is the new build cost compared to the rehab cost, compared to the refit cost? And they've said, well, it's about the same. And OK, so what's the operating cost difference between, say, burning this disgusting fuel, which the fossil fuel sector has to get rid of, otherwise they can't sell their sweet crude. They sell it to shipping because it gets burnt out of sight from people like you and me. And we burn it. We've got to get away from that. And it's only a few dollars a tonne. So we know the solution is there.
You have been very vocal about ending fossil fuel in recent months. Who's listening? And do you think the Davos crowd will be listening to you?
I think that self-interest is a really important factor to the so-called Davos crowd. And if you consider your family is important, your children are important, in fact, everyone's child is very important, then you'll only be planning your future through a lens of when will you take your company green. The question which Bloomberg needs to always ask everyone who ever sits in this seat is, when will you stop burning fossil fuel? And if the answer is, oh, this decade, give them a hug. If it's next decade, say, which part? Which part, mate? And they say, early, they say, OK, maybe give them a slap on the back. But if they say after 2035, say you're ignoring the global climate science and proof which is out there now, that if we don't switch, we're toasting our kids.
I want to take it back home to Australia. You delayed an investment decision in Queensland because you say that Australia is still struggling with a petrostate status. What really is wrong with Australia?
So, okay,
what is the issue?
What a great question. What a set-up question. I love it. So the issue is that we don't have enough green electricity yet in Australia. So I think, you know, I join the political leaders and say, we've got to do more green energy, we've got to do this, we've got to do that, or I can just get on and do it. So last week we announced 14 gigawatts as part of a 20 gigawatt program. That's circa 40, 50 plus billion dollars to bring in. We announced our commitment to that. We are building out the largest green electricity system which Australia's ever seen, and we're fully committed to it. And that is, you know, someone walking the talk.